Welcome to Future Foodcast. I'm Pam Miller, your host, and I'm really looking forward to highlighting one of the most expensive delicacies around the world today with our guest. His name is Roe Nirr, and he is the co-founder and CEO of Forsea Foods. Welcome to the show, Roe.
Hi, Pam. Thank you for having me in this show.
Yeah,
Happy to
we
be here.
are we're happy to have you for the show. Would you like to do the big reveal of what the one of the most expensive delicacies around the world is that we're going to talk about today?
Yes, so Forsea, the cultivated fish and seafood company, cell cultured fish and seafood company, we are going to essentially produce fish and seafood from cells. And the first product that we are going to launch will be the freshwater eel, also known as unagi. A delicacy that is very expensive in many markets. This is a very popular fish, especially in Asia, and its price can reach to more than $200 per kilogram.
Okay, this is one of the reasons I don't think I've ever had eel. So maybe you
Oh,
need to come.
so you're missing.
Maybe you're going to make it more affordable for me. That's great. Well, I don't know much about eels. I don't know how much our audience knows, but there's a whole story about them and their breeding, etc. Why don't you give us that background?
Sure. So first of all, although if you didn't eat, you haven't eaten eel, that's a market that is valued at around $10 billion. The primary markets, of course, are in Asia, but also the market in the US is around $500 million, and that's more or less in traditional smoking houses as well as Japanese restaurants. The eel is a very unique animal. It lives in sweet water most of its life, but it swims deep into the ocean in order to breed. And it takes the children of the eel about 1.5 years to be drifted back into the land. And because of this type of breeding, no one knows to really grow these baby eels in captivity. And that is why the only way to grow them commercially is to catch the baby eels and grow them. And that takes around 1 year. But the increased consumption of this animal with the climate changes that really changed their ecosystem brought them to be an endangered species, and their population declined around 90 to 95%. There are many fun facts about eels. One of them is that, for example, the American variant and the European variant, both of them breed in the Sargasso Sea. That's very close to the Bermuda Triangle, but somehow each one of them knows how to be drifted by the currents back to where his parents came. So it's a very unique animal. No one knows how to breed it in captivity, and it's a very expensive delicacy.
Amazing. I didn't know also that they are now an endangered species. But obviously a very smart endangered species if they all breed in the same place, but they know where to go back to their home. You know, it's always a wonder of the world that nature is so interesting in certain characteristics, and that's one of them for the eels, to be able to know where home base is.
Yeah, and by the way, when the parents leave the land, because they live in sweet water and they swim deep into the ocean, they haven't decided of their gender yet. So they basically their gender is determined on the way to their breeding spaces. So this has been investigated for years, and even Freud, as in his early life, he was a geologist and was investigating it. Now everybody just tried to breed them in captivity, but without any success so far.
And well, it sounds like there's a lot of variables there because if the gender is not determined until they reach the deep sea or on the way, and then, oh well, okay. there's a lot of there's a lot more that we can uncover about eels that have not been figured out yet. But
Of
you
course.
are trying to circumvent some of these issues and the challenges of breeding the eels with your unique technology that you're working on for actually creating them or within your lab.
Sure, yeah. So we are, as I said, a cultivated fish and seafood company. And what we do is we create cell lines from fish, and we use them to grow in bioreactor real eel meat. Eel is the first product, but we are working on additional species as well. But the methodology of cultured meat is around about 10 years since Mark Post has presented its $300,000 hamburger. And since then, many companies have been trying to develop technologies to really bring cultured meat products into the market. And there are many companies that have tried meat and chicken and pork. And in recent years, startups have already started to develop cultured fish and seafood products. And Forsea is very unique in terms of its technological approach. So the way that we work is completely different than any other cultivated meat or cultivated fish and seafood company. And while other companies are trying to apply a methodology that is called directed differentiation that has been developed for pharmaceutical processes, Forsea has brought a completely different approach. So the directed differentiation essentially means that cells are directed to be a specific cell type. For example, muscle or fat. So scientists will go to stem cells and they will give them the exact signaling in order to send them to their destination of a specific cell type. And they will essentially tell these cells, I want you to be muscle, or I want you to be fat, and so on.
Yeah.
What we have developed is a different technology that takes pluripotent stem cells. These are the most potent stem cells that are out there. And we give them we provide them with the environment that they think that they are in their original stage. And what we do is we aggregate them, we give them this environment, and we let them spontaneously differentiate to the cells that we want them to differentiate by this creating them this environment. So we essentially let them grow spontaneously to create a mini tissue that is naturally composed of fat, muscle, and of course the extracellular matrix, which is part of this mini tissue. And by that we achieve several remarkable advantages. One of them is that we save large quantities of media components because many of the growth factors, for example, that are being in nature that are being added in directed differentiation method, in our method, they are being produced by the cells themselves.
Right.
Another advantage is that we simplify the production process, make it more scalable, and thereby reduce the amounts required for in capex. So we need less bioreactors, less pipes, less, and so on. And the third advantage is that we do not need the scaffolding stage. Now, in directed differentiation, the scaffolding process is required to bring an external agent, a carrier, upon which you seed the cells in order to give them three-dimensional filling. We go mini tissues. So these mini tissues, as I said, include the extracellular matrix. So we are also saving a lot of complexity in our process. Now, in recent, one of the advancements that we reached in the past few weeks, using our very unique technology, we were able to reach cell densities that are, I don't know, a few weeks ago were just imaginable. So we reach cell densities of more than 300 million cells per ml. As far as we know, that's probably a world record. We know in the literature that even in pharma, for animal cells, the densities can reach to up to 200 million, and it's also very rare, 250. We already are more than 300 million cells per ml. And that's, of course, will translate to significant efficiencies and reduction of prices towards our launching of the first product below price point.
That is very exciting. Very exciting. Now, so just backing up a little bit. So you, right after fertilization, you're getting those, I guess pluripotent is the right word for the stem cells, right?
Yeah,
Pluripotent. Yeah, interesting.
So we start with what's called embryonic stem cells. So we basically go to a pond of fish and we collect a fertilized egg immediately after fertilization. It contains only a very minimal number of cells. So these are just stem cells. And these embryonic stem cells are basically have the potential to differentiate to any type of cell. And we build cell lines. We already built cell lines of several species from which we start our production process in bioreactors. And these cell lines are very unique. They have the ability to differentiate to the targeted cells that we would want them, which are the edible cells. And they also are immortal, but they are immortal naturally because these pluripotent stem cells were produced by nature to be immortal. They lose their immortality only after. So basically, these cells allow us to proliferate them forever in the bioreactor.
Right. And so the bioreactor environment is really key, but you don't really need any genetic intervention.
No, we do not do any genetic intervention work in our labs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's really exciting. And the fact that now you've reached such densities or such, your results are higher, more cells than any previously known that you know of. And so maybe by the time this episode actually airs, you will have, because things are moving at a very quick pace. Like you said, just weeks ago, you were dreaming about having 300,000. I mean,
100 million.
300 million. Sorry.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Wrong. Yeah. But the numbers, the zeros are getting added quickly is my point. And so just with your technology and your innovation, being able to implement this at such a brisk pace. Now, commercially, so talk to me about the viability of this, because this is actually, being used by commercial public, people in Japan and other places. Share with us some of your commercial success.
So I'll just maybe add that the cultivated meat industry, and within it, the cultivated fish and seafood has a really big promise to change the global sustainable food production. Okay, and the biggest challenge of this industry now is really how to bring the products to price parity so that they will be not only flavorful but also affordable. And with our technology and these results, our technology was validated and even proved to be even more than we expected. We can really bring such products into the market. And as for your question, so we obviously, because the largest market for eel unagi is Japan, and afterwards China and Korea, although the European, the American markets are still big, our initial focus is on these markets. We've already managed to establish very meaningful relationships in Japan, including one of the largest fish and seafood companies in Japan, which is also an investor, but also established commercial relationship with us. One of the largest eel companies in Japan, a very big online retailer that is also doing online food sales. So we have very strong relationships in this market and also investors. And we are constantly working to expand this relationship and also establish a presence in Japan. So we are now in the process of establishing a company. When this show will air, probably the company will be out there because it's a matter of days. But we will have an entity in Japan. We are planning also to establish an operation shop, including lab and pilot. So we are moving fast to establish the right entity in this market.
That's a big, like you said, moving fast and very exciting. Things are happening
Yes.
at a brisk pace, but it's because of the success of what you're implementing and in the process that you've been able to identify. But you don't have a large staff. I mean, you're very science oriented, and you have people all over the world, but not a lot.
Yes. So yeah, so we're now like 13 full-time employees and another part-timers. We use a lot of, freelancers to complement our operation, whether it's the finance or marketing and so on, procurement. But yeah, we try to be very efficient. Certainly, the success that we had with a limited number of people is very remarkable. And the next step for us will be once that we will start producing, and that will be the next jump for us in staff. We are now actually raising money to do the commercial, to build a commercial pilot plant from which we are going to produce the first products into the market in Asia.
Very exciting. So that place will be in Asia. You're actually in Israel, though, where a lot of the initial work has been done, right?
Yeah. So the R&D is now in Israel, and we have an amazing team which is very multidisciplinary. And that's one of the reasons that we reach such achievements. But we acknowledge that in order to support the large customers in Asia, probably it would be advisable for us to create a solid presence, including manufacturing in this region, and that's why we are acting to do so.
Absolutely. That's very exciting. Well, anything else? I mean, as if that wasn't enough, is there anything else happening at Forsea Foods that we need to know about? I know, the future holds other lines of fish in addition to the eels you're initially
Yeah,
focused.
so we have already created several cell lines. Eel is the first one, so we haven't disclosed other species yet, but we do have several additional cell lines. We are now doing several tasting events to our partners and investors to show them how delicious the products that we produce are. And yeah, we work on we're starting to work on our next funding round. For us, I always say that we have two missions. One is to provide the world with sustainable seafood. And that's a very noble task because the growing population that is going to be 10 billion at 2050 will need it. And already today less than 7% of the fisheries are being fished at level below sustainable limits, and the aquatic ecosystem are really at risk of collapsing. So I said that the first task is to provide the food, but the second task is really to do it sustainably. And these are very noble tasks as I see it, and that's why we work so hard to accomplish these goals for the company.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're being very successful, Rui. And I really, here at Future Foodcast, we appreciate you sharing your innovation and what you're doing with us. We are just so glad you took the time to come. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience before we go?
Just to say thank you for having me, and I'm a strong believer of food, the new food companies that bring really different message and products to our planet. And I look forward to continuing our development and to bring delicious and affordable products to the different markets around the globe.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you to our audience for listening to another episode. Please subscribe if you don't want to miss the next one. Until then, I'm Pam Linemiller.
Thanks for listening to Future Foodcast. Future Foodcast is powered by Farm to Plate, the leading food blockchain platform. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to stay up to date with the very latest innovations in the food industry.